Hey everybody, so today we're taking a look at rhetoric, and rhetoric is the art of persuasion. There's so many different ways that you can persuade people nowadays in your writing, and today we'll take a look at three, right? Take a look at ethos, pathos, and logos, right? So ethos essentially is a rhetorical appeal through credibility, right? So we have doctors, scientists, professors, so many different people who know what they're saying in their field because they've studied it. And so we, as writers, can utilize whatever they're saying in their own writing within what we're saying in our research, okay? And people believe it because they are people who are studying whatever field that they're studying, right? So whatever opinions or whatever piece of writing that they say, we would automatically be persuaded into believing it because they are owners of their craft, right? So that is ethos. Taking a look at pathos now. Pathos is one of my favorites because it's an appeal to emotion, right? We have so many different emotions, and there's a million different ways that you can go about writing using emotional capacity, right? So a few different ways that we can use pathos in our writing includes a joke or a story or an open-ended question. Now you can use many different ways, right? But those are the three main ones that you want to focus on, right? Now, the difference between a closed-ended question and an open-ended question is a closed-ended question only has one answer, more or less, right? And you want to make sure you always have open-ended questions. And these types of open-ended questions allow the readers to think a little bit more, right? So I'll give you an example. If you're asking a question that says, have you ever found yourself on your phone for a long time? Now, this type of question elicits only one answer, more or less. You can either say yes, no, maybe so, right? But you want to have the readers think a little bit more. So you ask an open-ended question, such as, um, if you did not own a phone, in what kind of ways would you find other productive means on a daily basis, right? So if you didn't own a phone, what kinds of ways would you find more productive ways um, in your daily lives, right? So these kinds of questions allow the readers to think a little bit more creatively. So think about having those types of questions within your own writing, okay? So that one was my favorite one. And we're taking a look at logos here, which is our last one. And essentially, this is a rhetorical appeal through the presentation of facts, statistics, history, studies, or concepts, right? Easy stuff, and we see this a lot in advertisements and in the news sometimes, right? To kind of supplement this, I would suggest that you take a look at the video on ethos, pathos, and logos in the modules. Take a look at that, then that will help supplement the concepts that we learned today on rhetorical appeals, right? So besides our three rhetorical appeals, we want to make sure that we utilize them effectively and efficiently in our own writing, right? So to be persuaded through all of this, you have to have a certain order and a certain way of presenting your information. So we have three uh, parts of an introduction. So every time you're writing an introductory paragraph, you want to make sure that it's organized a certain way so that, again, it flows, right? So we begin with our hook, our background, and our thesis. I use this inverted triangle approach to show you that, generally speaking, you should have your hook be general, and then the more that you get into your paper, going to the background and essentially to the thesis statement, it's going to get more specific, okay? So we'll begin with our hook right here. Our hook essentially is our first thing, our first sentence essentially of a research paper or an introduction, right? So it's the thing that grabs us, just like a regular hook would. But in writing, you want to make sure that you captivate us right away, okay? So we can use pathos or logos to initiate the hook, all right? It's generally 1, 2, or 3 sentences long, but keep it short, essentially. That's the main focus, okay? And you can, again, use pathos or logos. You know, start off with a story, start off with a joke, start off with something that's going to allow us to kind of be captivated again from the very beginning, okay? Got to hook us. And then we have our background. Our background just essentially lets us know a little bit more information about the topic, right? It then leads into the thesis, right? So our background should be more or less 3 to 4 sentences long, right? And then finally, we have our thesis statement. And again, as our thesis statement was mentioned before, should only be 1 sentence long, okay? Don't want to make it too long because essentially you want to have your argument specific and to the point. We call that conciseness in writing, right? So you don't have to say too much, you just get to the point right away, and that will be your argument, okay? So get our attention, let us know a little bit more about your topic, and finally make an argument about that topic. That's the inverted triangle approach, okay? Now I want to have you guys take a look at the sample introductory paragraph, right? So our sample introductory paragraph lets us know a little bit more about um, the specific topic here, which is the death penalty, right? So take a look at it, and I'll read it to you guys, okay? It says, celebrating the revolution, French citizens sent King Louis to the guillotine. Every Halloween day in ancient Rome, criminals were executed in the city square. In the 1800s, in an effort to prevent crime in the US, hundreds of bank robbers, horse thieves, and murderers were hanged in front of the public. Right there we have our hook, right? It's meant to kind of shock you, essentially, right? So we have people on Halloween that were killed, basically, right? And everybody watched it. Everybody was entranced, right? And reading about that is a little shocking, right? You don't expect that to happen. People getting killed in the middle of the street, right? And essentially that's our hook. Got our attention right away, right? It's a piece of history, and that's how we're going from there, okay? Now we're getting a little bit more into it, and it says, however, in the last half of the 20th century, the death penalty has faced increasing opposition. Many people, especially members of churches, are against capital punishment, and most advanced countries have eliminated the death penalty. While it is true that the death penalty has some negative points, it is still a powerful and useful tool. What you're seeing right here is a little bit of background information, right? You let us know what the discourse is and what people are saying about the death penalty, right? This word that I use, discourse, essentially is a way of saying the discussion, right? So what are people saying about this topic? What is the discourse, right? What are people saying? What are the opinions on this topic, right? So again, we have a little bit more background, getting a little bit more specific, and then finally relating into our thesis statement. Thesis statement is the last sentence, right? And it says, therefore, our society should keep the death penalty to deter crime, give fairness to victims and their families, and punish inhumane criminals, right there, okay? As we mentioned before, with our thesis statement, it is in SAS format. You have our subject, which is the death penalty. Our argument is saying that it should be, the death penalty should, our society should keep the death penalty, is the argument. And then we have three supporting details, right? We have it should be kept to deter crime, give fairness to victims and their families, and finally to punish inhumane criminals, right? And right there, we use the inverted triangle approach, right? It's an example of how to use it. We get our hook, our background, and our thesis statement, right? This is the way that you would organize an introduction for a research paper, okay? And a really easy way to put it is to utilize all our rhetorical appeals right here in any way that you see fit, okay? And that's it.